Hey guys, what's up? This is ScherBR, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is about the summer banner and event. We'll be checking these new styles and see if they are worth summoning or not. Let's just click here and go straight to the topic. We have now 4 new styles to summon for that SS Liz and Azami, and then S Diana and A Mikhail. SS Liz and Azami was changed for global. There are some difference between their Japanese counterparts. And I think that Liz is now very interesting, while Azami didn't really fix the problem with this style, so she's like a side grade. Let's start with Liz. Let's click here on trial. Starting with Water of Life. Water of Life, it's a healing spell. We already saw this before with Alice Yundin. That's a healing spell that can be compared to what Sophia uses. Starts with 4 BP, can be reduced to 3. Very nice, but cannot compare to what White Rose does. And the second one is ID Break. ID Break is a bow skill, so it uses dexterity and can inflict confusion. It's not so strong, it has only C power, it's 7 VP cost, can be reduced to 5, but confusion is a very rare resource in this game. You barely has any skill that can inflict confusion. We got Professor very recently that can inflict confusion with an AoE attack, but that AoE attack costs 11 BP, that is even if you fully awaken it, and it's very hard to spam it. But ID Break can be spammed, and especially on events that has not many enemies, like Zui, Coliseum, depending on the waves, and also for some future content against bosses that can be inflicted confusion. They can hardly be inflicted confusion, mostly the earlier stages, but this can be helpful in some situations. It's also worth to say that ID Break is a very common skill in the Romancing Saga games, but it's now exclusive to this version of Liz. There's no other character that has this skill so far when compared to the Japanese version. And then there's Water's Dragon Boom. This is a very unique attack. It's a spell with the water element that deals very high damage and also creates a shield or a barrier. You see that's S power, 11 BP cost. It was supposed to be 13 based on the Japanese version, but they changed this for global, and reducing this further to 8 by awakening make it very easy to be spammed. You can start this on turn 1 and use it, so you deal damage and gets a barrier, and then you do a normal attack on the second turn. Third turn you will have 8 BP again, and you can use this skill again. And after that, you'll be cycling it every 2 or 3 turns. Water Dragon's Boom is incredible because it creates a barrier that will reduce spell attacks, but not skills. You can see here on the description, and also reduces cold attacks. In order to fully understand this, is like the shield has 2 properties. One value for spell attacks and another value for cold attacks. And they can be used together to stack, and the damage will be further reduced. There's like 15 to 20% of damage mitigation from spell attacks and 5 to 10% mitigation from cold attacks. So you can just stack together and get up to 30% of cold mitigation on a fight. That is super interesting when you're facing a boss that has spells that are based on cold. And we have like ScherBR attacks. Now there is a new event that we have this Water Dragon. Well, it will be useful in some situations, but you always have some bosses that use spells. Even if they don't use cold attacks, 20% damage mitigation can be helpful in a lot of situations. It's not easy to find this type of spell in this game because they don't have many skills that can mitigate damage, but there will be characters that will have passives that will further mitigate damage. So even if you skip this version of Liz, you are not missing so much. So, we're talking about all the 3 skills. You can see that she has a healing attack, one attack that can inflict confusion, and one attack that can create a barrier. Also, another good thing to say about Water's Dragon Boom, that even if you don't think about the shield, it's super strong. 11 BP cost can be comparable to, say, Yundin. She has Cyclone Squeeze. It's the highest damage for single target cold spells in the game so far. And now she has competition on this regard, but with a reduced BP of 11, and she will be able to spam this way more than as Yundin. And now back to Liz. I want to talk about her status distribution. She needs a lot of different status to perform well. She needs Dexterity for ID Break. She has it. It's a average number. She needs agility for Water Dragon's Boom be casted before the enemy attacks. She doesn't have all the agility that she needed. And she needs intelligence for more damage with the spell. She needs love in order to be able to heal better. She also needs intelligence again for ID break to confuse the enemies. So her most needed status are dexterity, agility, intelligence, and love. And she's lacking on agility. That's the problem with this version of Liz. But she'll be getting 2 different styles in the future that are super important to the game. And one of them has a very, very high agility. So inheriting this skill for her future style will be even better. But for now, she may not use this on full potential. If she attacks after the enemy, you will only have 1 turn of this effect of this spell. So let's click here on abilities. She has Breath of Life 3 that has a 25% chance of healing her on the start of a turn. RG defense will reduce the incoming damage by 20% only when she's on full HP. And Enervate 3 has a chance of inflicting intelligence debuff. 15% of intelligence debuff with a 25% chance of happening. It's interesting because she is more useful on challenges or stages where the boss uses spells. So debuffing the intelligence will help her a little more by reducing the incoming damage. But she doesn't have anything for damage here. I don't think these abilities are so interesting. That's why I'm summoning for this girl only for inheritance. It's the only style from Liz that has Water of Life, so this is the only way to make her a healer as well. And ID Break is unique, and Water Dragon's Boom unique as well. So Liz is an interesting option. I would say that, in my opinion, she will be an 8 out of 10. A good character for inheritance, but not so game-breaking, not so important right now in the game. Second one is Azami. She starts with Wave Strike. This attack affects a column of enemies. It's cold damage only. It doesn't have blunt as a property, so it may not even be so useful depending on the situation. It's not full AoE. It is very strict. It's 8 damage, you see here. 5 BP equals can be reduced to 4. It's not bad per se, but it's not useful all the time. Her second skill is Submission. You already saw this way too many times. This, in my opinion, is the best martial arts attack because they buff SDR and they have very high agility to use this before the enemy, so decreasing the incoming damage on the start of a fight is super important on this game. The last skill is Cascading Counter. Cascading Counter. It's very different when compared to the Japanese version. You can see this attack and Jolt Counter as well. In the Japanese version, she only had Jolt Counter. She didn't have Cascading Counter. Cascading Counter is an attack with blunt and cold properties, so it's good because it gives you 2 options for damage. But the Jolt Counter is only blunt damage. See here, only blunt. And it has a lower power. So in the Japanese version, it was only the Jolt Counter. You will use it and then she will just try to evade the enemy attack and counter with Jolt Counter. And that was interesting because, well, we kind of like to evade enemy attacks. That's negation. We have parry that does that. But the problem with Azami is that she doesn't have any way to taunt the enemy. She needs formations to increase her aggro. And she kind of needs speculation to perform well and do more damage. And in speculation, the first character will have more chance of being attacked. But they are not guaranteed. They are not so high, so the enemies will still attack other people. And even if Cascading Counter now does damage before starting the counter stance, it's still not enough. You can start with 13 VP and reduce to 10, so in some situations where you face a single wave of enemies and there's like 9 enemies to face, in some hidden dojo stages, if you are still not easily clearing that, she will be interesting. Because she will evade the enemy attacks and counter them. The damage can be good because it's it's like having a nerf damage, a little higher than the mission damage. It will help you only on those situations, in my opinion. You won't have time to get PP back to use this again. And also, you will probably be choosing submission instead of this attack most of the time in boss fights. It's better to just reduce the incoming damage than to just counter the boss attacks. This is the problem with this Azami. I don't think that she fixed her problem. if she had more chance of taunting, or I don't know, a lower BP cost, even if she didn't do damage, or lower damage but reducing the BP cost, that would be more interesting. So now let's just go check her multipliers. Her status are very similar to the Platinum version. She's like a side grade. They're just so similar, like 82% and then 83% max. That's the damage output will be very similar. The only difference will be the abilities. Only the first one is different. She has self-improvement that when she attacks, she has a chance of recovering BP. And this can be a curse, because Submission uses 6 VP if you awaken it to max, and Wave Strike starts with 5. You can kinda make her only use Submission, because we get 3 BP by every turn. She will never have 5, depending on how you play. If you leave her on auto, she will never ever use Wave Strike. But because of this self-improvement, sometimes she will have 5 BP. And that's why it's not so interesting to have self-improvement with a character that you want a specific attack all the time. We know this, Teacher Yundini also has this problem, and that's why I don't think this Azami is so interesting. The Platinum version can do just fine, she can just cycle between submission, but then you have to summon for her Christmas style. And if you summon this version, you will have to train both, depending on the situation. You can also just teach submission to your Platinum Azami by summoning this Summer Azami. Well, in my opinion, this Summer Azami deserves a lower grade, like a 7.5 out of 10. She's still a very good submission user, but she falls apart on her last skill. She doesn't have all the damage that the Platinum version has. The Platinum can increase agility by attacking. Not that it matters that much, but at least she has Guan Yu. When you want overdrive damage, she will do more damage than this Azami. Okay, and now there's S. Diana. And S. Diana is more for inheritance. She's not bad per se. She has Piercing Thorn. Piercing Thorn is a unique attack, I think. It can inflict poison with a medium chance. It's not so bad. There's critical damage against fish because of the event itself. Diana gets an SS style in the future, so she becomes better by inheritance. Sword Ballet, it's an attack that we always use. It's a Pierce version of Punishing Paw. Very good to have when you are farming or using Seeker's Path. And the last one is Mega Trust. Mega Trust is very good damage by low BP, can be reduced to 9 BP, very good. And that's it. I think Piercing Thorn is her selling point if you want to inflict poison. Let's just give a look on her style details. Abilities. She has Hardy Wallop, that damage increases when she's on full HP. She can deal more damage if she's facing the enemy weakness. And she also has a chance to recover her own BP. Only 1 point. There's a different name, but it's just the same thing. So I think this is more for the future, and when you need poison, she's not exactly comparable to any SS style, in my opinion. But people like the art, so they'll probably invest in on Diana. Then we have Mikhail, another character that's just for inheritance. Let's just click here on trial. He has Feint, that can give him a chance of stunning the enemy. That can be passed through his SS style. Then we have Perforate. This attack here I have to check. Has a nice animation, but it's C damage only, for 7 BP, not enough in my opinion. And Screwdriver is not a good attack as well. It deals critical against female, only S power with 13 BP. So only Feint can be useful here in my opinion. And well, his passives are not so interesting as well. He has Enervate Will, not so interesting. Critical attacks deal more damage, and he gets more experience to the end of the fight. There's another SS styles that get this, so this is useless. So well, this was about the banners. Now we come to the tough question. Is this banner worth summoning for? In my opinion, it's an average banner. SS Liz is interesting. She is good for inheritance. SS Azami is not so good. I think she's above average, but it's not so interesting. Her rotation is not good for farming. She has some problems. If you already have SS Azami and you already have submission because you summon her Christmas style, there's no reason for you to summon for this as well. So if you want Liz, stop when you summon Liz. You don't need the other characters. The other characters are only for inheritance. And also another thing about Azami is that it took like 1 year and a half almost for the Japanese developers to release a Halloween version of her. She will get a lot of problems with keeping up with the meta. There will be more stronger blend damage dealers that offer more utility. So don't think that this Azami will stick with you for too much time. So now I would just want to check the event itself. I don't think it's a hard event. This event is easier than some of the Emidia's events. There's a lot of good stuff here. You can get S-Polka, and S-Polka is a serviceable tank. He is... if you don't have Albert, you can just use this Polka and he can serve you well. Now let's just talk about this version of Polka. He has Moonfall Slash, indirect attack cannot be countered, 5 VP, C power, very good. Mirage Blade is not exactly good on this version of Polka because he kind of wants to use a Steel Blade. And the Steel Blade is just the same skill that we can use with SS Albert. It gives a taunt and also very high damage, very nice. And if you look on his abilities, you can see that he's a very serviceable tank for those that don't have an SS style. He reduces damage when he's on full HP. He has a chance to enter taunt chance on the start of a turn for 4 turns, and when he's attacking, he can also recover his HP. So even better for survival stuff. And well, he's not exactly meta or anything else. He's just useful. He's free. Now back to the shop. We have a lot of SaGa 30 tickets to summon for. I think we can get 10 of this, and let's just see if they refresh the shop. Yeah, they did. But that will take a lot of time to get because you need 10 for the first purchases and then you need 20 for the second purchases. You can only get it by trading the special currency. Let's click here on the... We have 2 different coconuts. One is a normal and the other one is a tropical coconut. And this is what you use to get some of the best things from the shop. Also, this event has a triple status gains on the event and double gains on the story. Also 3 times drops for some stages daily. And back on the exchange shop, then after you purchase the Polka, then his pieces if you want it. It's not important to get his pieces. One equipment here is kinda okay, not so good. And I suggest getting only after you got the tickets and only if you are in for that. The bucks are important. Get them. And then, well, there are some pieces for the styles of they are featured here. But still, focus on the tickets. Okay, so I'll be clearing the last stage here. I don't think it's hard, but I did clear it by using Emidia. It's interesting that you can use Emidia here because, well, she deals pierce damage, and this enemy is weak against pierce. You can see here, only pierce and cold. I can just use this formation here. I don't have a specific formation for this fight, but I don't care. It's super easy if you have Emilia. If you don't, you can just bring a formation like Divine Wall with happier users. Start this fight here by just using normal auto. It's the best course of action because you are saving VP. You want a lot of VP for the next wave. Next wave is just the boss. It's also important to see that this event only has 2 waves. It's easier to farm. These enemies don't have very high damage. You can just simply use normal auto just fine. Remember, Emilia doesn't do fierce damage with her normal attack or with bouncing shot. You just have to use a sweet trap on the enemy. That's why I'm saving VP. Okay, now is the last turn before the boss. We don't have overdrive yet, no problem. We can just use Bone Crusher with Sophia. Acelus can use Mirage Step. It's interesting to use Mirage Step here because this boss has some Lightning Pierce that deals indirect attack and it's a spell. There's also Frost that is also a spell. Interesting that it says wind here and then cold here. I don't fully understand. Now I can just use Jagged Ice or Ice Javelins. I'll be using Ice Javelins because it can debuff. And then I'll use Sweet Trap now. Then I can use this Frightened Soldiers or Rail Cannon. This T260G here is just for nothing. I don't need him. We just got a 5-man combo. Man, I think this Sweet Trap just killed the boss. Oh man, that's why I recommend you guys to summon for immediate. It's still on the banner actually. It's super easy to farm this stage if you have her, but you don't need to. Just clear it once and farm stage number 5. Stage number 5 is likely a very good stage to farm. And yeah, just farm this stage. So this is it guys, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so by using Patreon, PayPal or Coffee buttons here in the description. We see each other on the next one. Bye.